In the world of gospel music, where every note carries the weight of generations and every harmony tells a story of unwavering faith, there are voices that transcend mere performance to become vessels of divine calling. These aren't just singers standing before microphones or entertainers seeking applause. They are ministers, storytellers, and guardians of a sacred tradition that has the power to transform lives, heal broken spirits, and remind us all of something greater than ourselves. Today we journey into the extraordinary lives of two men whose paths, though different in many ways, share a common thread of devotion, sacrifice, and purpose. Their stories aren't written in the headlines of mainstream media, but in the quiet moments of worship, in the tear-stained faces of those who found hope through their songs, and in the legacy they continue to build not just in music, but in the very fabric of faith itself. What drives a man to step away from success? What keeps another rooted in a calling when the world offers countless easier paths? These questions lead us to Adam Crabb and Wes Hampton, two remarkable artists whose journeys reveal profound truths about what it means to live authentically, to honor family above fame, and to answer a call that echoes deeper than any stage could ever contain. Born in 1978 into the illustrious Crabb family, Adam Crabb entered a world where gospel music wasn't simply a career choice or a hobby passed down through generations. It was the very air his family breathed, the foundation upon which their lives were built, and the ministry that defined their purpose. The Crabb family stands as one of Southern gospel's most cherished dynasties, a name synonymous with excellence, authenticity, and a commitment to spreading the message of Christ through song. Adam grew up alongside siblings whose names would become legendary in gospel circles. Jason and Aaron Crabb, his brothers, developed reputations for their poignant lyrics, harmonies that seemed almost supernatural in their precision, and a ministry that resonated across generations, touching the hearts of young and old alike. From his earliest memories, Adam was immersed in an environment where music and ministry were inseparable. The sounds of rehearsals filled his childhood home. The discussions around the dinner table often centered on upcoming performances or the theological depth of a particular hymn, and the very rhythm of family life beat in time with the calling to serve God through song. While many might assume that being born into such a prestigious musical family would guarantee success, Adam understood from early age that legacy alone wouldn't sustain him. He recognized that the Crabb name opened doors, but it was his own dedication, his unique vocal gift, and his genuine heart for ministry that would determine whether he simply rode on the coattails of his family's achievements or carved out his own significant place in gospel music history. His sweet baritone voice, rich with warmth and depth, became his signature. Unlike voices that demand attention through power alone, Adam's vocals invite listeners into an intimate space of worship. There's a quality to his singing that feels less like performance and more like prayer, less like entertainment and more like communion. This authenticity, this refusal to let his technical ability overshadow the message, became the hallmark of his ministry and the reason countless fans developed such deep connections with his music. Adam's early career saw him contributing to various gospel ensembles, including performances with the Crabb Family group itself, where he learned the intricacies of harmony, stage presence, and the delicate balance between showcasing individual talent and serving the collective mission. But it was his time with the Kingdom Heirs that truly shaped his artistic identity and ministerial approach. The Kingdom Heirs renowned throughout Southern gospel circles for their energetic performances and their masterful blend of traditional sounds with contemporary sensibilities provided Adam with a platform to experiment, grow, and develop his own voice within the genre. The group's commitment to excellence without sacrificing authenticity resonated deeply with Adam's own values. Here, he wasn't just a member of a famous family, he was a valued contributor whose gifts were recognized and celebrated on their own merits. The Kingdom Heirs audiences came to love Adam not because of his last name, but because of the genuine passion he brought to every performance, the consistency of his delivery, and the obvious sincerity that radiated from him whether he was singing to a crowd of thousands or to a small congregation in a rural church. Through countless performances, recordings, and tours, Adam refined his craft while never losing sight of the core purpose behind it all. Gospel music for Adam has never been about showcasing vocal ability or achieving commercial success, though his talent certainly warranted both. Instead, it has always been about ministry, about using the gift God gave him to lead people to Christ, to remind the weary of God's unwavering love, and to offer hope to those drowning in despair. The themes that run through Adam's music, whether he's performing classics from the gospel repertoire or newer compositions, consistently point toward redemption, grace, and the transformative power of faith. His songwriting, which has produced several pieces that have touched countless lives, demonstrates an ability to weave personal testimony with universal spiritual truths. He doesn't write from a place of theoretical theology, but from lived experience, from the struggles and victories of walking daily with Christ, and from a deep understanding that every person listening carries burdens only God can fully comprehend. One of the most remarkable aspects of Adam Crabb's journey has been his ability to maintain balance in a career that constantly threatens to tip the scales. Gospel musicians face unique challenges that secular artists may never encounter. They're not just performers, they're ministers. They're not just traveling for work, they're answering a calling. And for those with families, the tension between honoring that calling and being present for the people who need them most can become overwhelming. Adam, known among those close to him as a devoted husband and loving father, has consistently chosen to prioritize his family, even when the demands of his career pulled him in other directions. This isn't to say he hasn't traveled or toured extensively, because the reach of his ministry requires that presence on the road. Rather, it speaks to his intentionality in creating boundaries, in being fully present when he's home, and in modeling for his children what it means to honor both your calling and your family without sacrificing one for the other. This commitment to family reflects a theme that runs deep in gospel music circles, where many of the genre's most beloved figures openly acknowledge that their ministry begins at home, in the daily decisions to love their spouses well, to invest in their children's spiritual formation, and to build foundations that will outlast any recording or performance. Adam's character in this area serves as a testimony in itself, demonstrating that faith isn't just about what you sing on Sunday, but how you live every day of the week. His ability to maintain this equilibrium speaks to a depth of character and a clarity of priorities that extends far beyond musical talent. It reveals a man who understands that success measured by album sales or concert attendance means nothing if he fails in the roles that matter most: husband, father, follower of Christ. The evolution of Adam's career demonstrates something beautiful about the Southern gospel tradition. While he honors the legacy left by previous generations and respects the foundations laid by his family and those who came before them, he's not content to simply replicate what has already been done. Adam serves as a bridge between the treasured sounds of traditional gospel and the fresh expressions emerging in contemporary worship. He recognizes that to reach new generations, the message must be clothed in forms they can receive, even while the core truths remain unchanged. This balance between innovation and tradition requires wisdom, discernment, and a willingness to take risks while staying rooted in conviction. Adam navigates this tension with grace, never abandoning the musical heritage that shaped him, but also refusing to let that heritage become a cage that limits how God might want to use his voice in new contexts and with new audiences. Parallel to Adam's journey, though in a different corner of the gospel music world, runs the remarkable story of Wes Hampton, whose own path reveals profound truths about calling, sacrifice, and the courage required to choose family over fame. For more than a decade, Wes Hampton's voice served as one of the defining characteristics of the Gaither Vocal Band, arguably the most recognizable group in contemporary gospel music. His smooth baritone, his heartfelt delivery that could move audiences to tears, and his humble presence that never sought the spotlight even while occupying center stage, all contributed to making the Gaither Vocal Band the powerhouse ministry it became. Millions of gospel music listeners around the world came to love Wes not just for his vocal talent, but for the genuine spirit they sensed in him, the authenticity that couldn't be manufactured or faked, and the obvious love for Christ that permeated every note he sang. When Wes joined the Gaither Vocal Band in 2005, the group was already established as one of gospel music's most talented and illustrious ensembles. Founded by Bill Gaither, whose influence on gospel and Christian music cannot be overstated, the group carried a legacy of excellence and a responsibility to millions of fans who look to their music for spiritual encouragement and worship. Wes stepped into this environment and, rather than being overwhelmed by the weight of expectation, established himself as an indispensable part of the group's sound and ministry. Over the years that followed, he appeared on countless recordings that topped gospel charts, participated in extensive tours that took the group around the world, and became a fixture on their television specials that aired to audiences spanning multiple continents. Songs like Because He Lives and others showcased not just his technical ability, but his capacity to connect emotionally and spiritually with listeners, to make each person in an audience of thousands feel as though he was singing directly to them, ministering to their specific needs and struggles. Beyond his role as a vocalist, Wes became something more within the structure of the Gaither Vocal Band. He was a steady presence during a time when the group saw various changes in its lineup. He served as a mentor to younger members who joined the ensemble, sharing not just musical knowledge but wisdom about maintaining faith and integrity in an industry that can challenge both. He represented reliability in a world of constant change, showing up prepared, serving the ministry with excellence, and consistently pointing people toward Christ rather than toward himself. This humility, this servant's heart, that characterized Wes's years with the group, made his eventual departure all the more surprising to those who didn't understand the deeper currents running beneath the surface of his life. The decision to leave the Gaither Vocal Band didn't come easily for Wes Hampton. This wasn't a choice made in haste or driven by conflict, disappointment, or a desire for something more glamorous. There was no scandal, no disagreement, no falling out with other members. Instead, Wes's departure represented one of the most difficult and courageous decisions a man can make, choosing to step away from success, recognition, and a role he loved deeply because God was calling him to a different season, and his family needed him in ways that life on the road couldn't accommodate. The constant travel that comes with being part of a premier gospel group, while fulfilling in many ways, exacts a toll that outsiders rarely see. The nights spent in hotels instead of in his own bed, the moments with his children that couldn't be reclaimed once missed, the strain on his marriage of being physically present only intermittently while the daily challenges of family life continued without pause. Behind the public persona of Wes Hampton, the gospel singer, existed Wes Hampton, the husband and father, roles he held sacred, and that weighed heavily on his heart as the years with the Gaither Vocal Band accumulated. As his children grew in time, proved itself irreplaceable. As the moments he was missing became increasingly clear, Wes found himself facing a decision that would define not just his career, but his very character. What do you do when two good things, two callings even, come into tension with one another? How do you honor a ministry that touches millions while also honoring the ministry to your own family that God has given you primary responsibility for? For Wes, the answer became increasingly clear, even as it remained incredibly difficult. He needed to step back from the demands of touring, to create space for being present with his wife and children, and to trust that God's plan for his ministry might look different than what he had known for over a decade. This decision was fundamentally an act of faith, a choice to believe that God had different routes and different opportunities waiting that would better align with the season of life Wes was entering. It meant trusting that stepping away from the platform and recognition of the Gaither Vocal Band didn't mean abandoning ministry altogether, but rather finding new expressions of it. Wes began to envision possibilities for solo ministry work that could be scheduled with more flexibility, for songwriting that could happen from home, and for alternative approaches to serving the gospel music community that wouldn't require the relentless pace of touring he'd maintained for so many years. This calling to a different kind of ministry, one that prioritized presence over prominence and family over fame, required tremendous courage because it meant releasing something good to pursue something better, even when that better thing looked smaller and less impressive from the outside. The response to Wes's decision from Bill Gaither and the other members of the Gaither Vocal Band revealed much about the character of the people involved and the values that truly undergirded their ministry. Rather than responding with disappointment or trying to convince Wes to stay, they received his decision with understanding, support, and genuine blessing. The transition was handled with grace and kindness, reflecting relationships built on mutual respect rather than merely professional obligation. Bill Gaither, who has seen countless talented people pass through his various musical endeavors over the decades, understood that true ministry must honor the whole person, not just their gifts. He recognized that families are foundational to effective ministry, and that when a man needs to prioritize his home, supporting the decision reflects gospel values more truly than any performance ever could. This gracious response highlighted one of the Gaither Vocal Band's often overlooked strengths, their commitment to valuing not just musical excellence but also personal growth, spiritual health, and family life among their members. The lessons contained in Wes Hampton's departure extend far beyond the gospel music industry. His story serves as a powerful reminder that success cannot be measured solely by public recognition, career advancement, or professional achievement. True success, the kind that matters in eternal perspective, comes from living in alignment with one's deepest values and convictions. It means having the courage to make decisions that others might not understand, choices that from the outside might look like steps backward, but that represent faithfulness to what God is calling you toward. For those watching Wes's journey, whether fellow musicians, fans, or anyone struggling with similar tensions between career and family, his narrative provides inspiration and permission to prioritize what truly matters most. The story also reveals the profoundly human dimension of gospel music, reminding us that behind every powerful voice and moving performance stands a real person navigating real challenges. These artists aren't superhuman. They're individuals with the same struggles, doubts, and difficult choices that everyone faces. They deal with the tension of balancing work responsibilities with family needs. They wrestle with decisions about where to invest their limited time and energy. They face the challenge of living up to their own convictions while also meeting the expectations others place upon them. In Wes Hampton's transparency about these struggles and his willingness to make the hard choice, we see reflected back to us our own journeys and find encouragement to pursue faithfulness over all else. Both Adam Crabb and Wes Hampton's journeys illuminate profound truths about what it means to pursue calling while honoring family, to build a legacy while staying grounded in present responsibility, and to measure success by standards that transcend public approval or professional advancement. Their stories challenge the cultural narrative that bigger platforms, wider recognition, and increase in influence always represent God's blessing or the right path forward. Sometimes the most faithful choice involves stepping back, scaling down, or redirecting towards something that looks less impressive from the outside but aligns more truly with where God is leading. These men demonstrate that gospel music ministry at its best flows from lives characterized by integrity, by coherence between public proclamation and private practice, and by willingness to make sacrifices for what matters most eternally. As both Adam and Wes continue their ministries, though in different contexts and through different means than earlier seasons, their influence continues to expand in ways that statistics and sales figures cannot measure. They inspire a new generation of gospel musicians by modeling what faithful, sustainable ministry looks like across a lifetime. They encourage families by demonstrating that it's possible to honor both calling and commitments to spouse and children. They remind everyone who encounters their stories that the true measure of a life well lived isn't found in accolades accumulated or recognition received, but in faithfulness to God's calling, devotion to family, and genuine love for others. Their voices, whether heard on recordings, in live performances, or through the testimony of lives lived with conviction, continue to point people toward the unchanging truths of the gospel, and toward the God who calls each person to their own unique expression of faithful service. The legacy these men are building extends beyond any single song, album, or performance. It's being written in the lives they've touched through music, in the families they've prioritized and nurtured, in the example they've set for others navigating similar challenges, and in the kingdom work that continues through and because of their faithfulness. For Adam Crabb, that legacy connects past and future, honoring the tradition he inherited while innovating for the audiences God has given him to reach. For Wes Hampton, that legacy demonstrates that true success sometimes means choosing the narrow path, making the difficult decision, and trusting God's provision even when it requires releasing something valuable. Together, their stories weave a tapestry of faith, family, and calling that continues to inspire and challenge all who encounter it. As we reflect on these remarkable journeys of faith and sacrifice, we're reminded that true ministry flows from authentic living and courageous choices. If Adam Crabb and Wes Hampton's stories have touched your heart and inspired you to reconsider what truly matters in life, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of faith, family, and the voices that continue to shape gospel music. Leave a comment below telling us how these stories have impacted you, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss another inspiring journey of faithfulness and devotion.